Okay, we need all members to make their way back to the committee room so that they can hear the terms of the compromise. We need all members, all witnesses, anybody who cares about this bill to make their way back to the committee room so they can hear the terms of the compromise. Okay, we're going to wait till the doors are shut, till people are in here. Let's everybody make their way back in here expeditiously as possible. And please, let's close these doors and let's get moving. Okay, we have a compromise that has been worked out. We think it addresses all of the issues. First of all, I want to thank everybody for doing that. That was rather extraordinary, and I thank everybody for giving. It's never good, it never feels good to give, but I thank everybody for coming to the table. There are a number of amendments. I'm going to read them all on the mic so that these amendments can be logged. But we have an agreement that this bill is going to move forward today, that nobody is going to oppose it today, and the bill is going to move forward. And these are the terms, okay? And by the way, I want to say that this is the Consumer Protection and Privacy Committee. We have balanced the need of consumer protection in terms of protecting the people who talk to the police, which is members of the public, protecting the privacy of the public at large, and of course this is the right to freely move through society without being recorded and having your privacy invaded, and the privacy of employees. And that's the rank and file police officer who, large numbers of them, never do anything wrong, never have a case against them, and they need some privacy as well. And then of course with the tremendous things that Ms. Weber is trying to do to provide a sense of faith and trust back in law enforcement and make sure that the bad apples can get weeded out. Okay, so first of all, the first amendment that we're going to deal with is the PRA. We're going to do something in this bill to be clear that which things can be the subject of a Public Record Act's request. That's how we're going to deal with issues like domestic violence victims and people who are victims of rape and such. Rather than forcing the cop on the beat, the person in that situation, to deal with an issue of turning the camera on or off, we're going to allow that conversation to be recorded so that the police officer can deal with more pressing issues, including issues of safety and dealing with witnesses and managing the situation. But then we're going to let the Public Records Act deal with that. We're going to offer protections for the public to make sure that those recordings cannot be obtained and used against that member of the public. We are going to strengthen the protections for informants, not just confidential informants, but informants of all kinds. We're going to make sure that, you know, if somebody testifies or does something in a situation where they tell the police the location of somebody or they cooperate in some manner, that person is protected and that footage is not used to harm a witness or to get in the wrong hands in any case, whether a criminal proceeding or a Public Records Act proceeding that subjects somebody who cooperates with the police to harm. We are going to tighten up the provisions in Section 830.16A4 that deal with private homes. We want to make sure we have protections for the sanctity of the home. In Section A5, we want to make sure that we clarify how the notice would work in practice. We have concerns, of course, that it's impossible to provide notice to the public at large in every single circumstance where a body camera is turned on. We also think it's very difficult and not workable, the situation there in Section 5, both Sections A and B. We are going to change, and this is a very key amendment I've heard from members of the panel. We are going to change the provision of the whether or not a police officer can review the material before filing a report. We are, however, going to preserve local control. So this is the best of both worlds. In a city like Los Angeles, which just passed regulations allowing their rank and file to review it, that would control. In a city like Oakland or Richmond, which has their own rules and requirements, we're going to let the locals control that. For the vast majority of the state, this would provide the officers the ability to review it before their report. And that's a very important amendment. We also are going to we're also going to clarify in section B, 830.16B, that these guidelines are guidelines. There's a lot of shalls in there. There's a shall consider, and there's shalls in the guidelines. We're going to clarify that some of these are mandatory, some of them are not. The vast majority will not be mandatory. However, we are going to make mandatory those in sections 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I repeat, sections 830.116B, sections 10, 11, and 12, those are going to be put in the body of the bill, and those are going to be made mandatory. And we have blessing from all parties involved. And these are things like a peace officer will not use the body camera where there's a reasonable expectation of privacy. A police officer will not record conversations with their fellow officer when they're complaining about all these wonderful chiefs who are here today. When they're talking about their private homes, you know, we want to make sure that there is privacy for the public and for the rank and file officers. And we're also not going to allow facial recognition to be used with the body-worn camera. So that's sections 10, 11, and 12. We've already mentioned that we're going to protect the issue. We're going to deal with the issues of when it has to be switched on. We mentioned that. And we're also going to subject this to periodic control. We have not set the exact date yet. This is not a sunset provision for this bill. This bill will be perpetual. However, we are going to subject these policies to periodic review as technology changes and as the different chiefs and different viewpoints of the localities evolve over time. So we're going to have a periodic review in this bill. I believe that reflects the agreement. We had everybody in the room. We had advocacy organizations, we had law enforcement, we had everybody in the room. We had the author, her principal co-author. It's my understanding that this withdraws all opposition. Well, we have a couple people who are stating that it doesn't withdraw opposition, but they're not opposing this bill today, okay? And just to reflect that, and that this bill is going to keep moving today in that form. We're going to get these amendments in. We're going to get these amendments in, and we're going to make it so that we think we will have everybody happy at some point. All right. I'm going to give you the opportunity to close. I'm sorry, Mr. Cooper.
We haven't seen the amendments, and the devil's in the details. And just like, for instance, facial recognition, and just offhand, if you're in a crowd with a riot going on, you've got a camera on, why wouldn't you use facial recognition? Anybody that's been booked in a county jail, for instance, here in Sacramento, our facial recognition system works. So if you've got somebody in a riot situation and someone's breaking the law and committing crimes, why wouldn't you use that? Why would you limit yourself from using that? I don't know. Or you're dealing with someone, you have contact, for instance, a suspect on the street, you stop and detain someone.
And Mr. Cooper, I understand your points.
Right.
I understand your experience. What we're going to do, we were referring to the general public, the concept of turning multi-thousand member police forces into, for lack of a better word, drones that record every single face on the street. That's what we're referring to. I'm sure we can come up with a list, working with you, working with other people for exigent circumstances, riots, and things like that. We did just hammer out this compromise. This is yes, it's last minute. The devil is in the details. You have everybody's commitment, mine, the authors, this committee, that this committee will retain jurisdiction over this bill. We are going to make sure that this is acceptable to everybody. We're up against a fiscal deadline today. We're trying to make this compromise position, and we've got tremendous progress, I think, that has been made. So we will work to make sure that those exigent circumstances are considered.
Are you reserving the right to bring the bill back to the committee at some future point? Or?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So will it, I guess I'm asking the chair now, will it come back so we can see the changes? Because right now, I mean,
I think what we're going to do, we are going to put these amendments into the bill. I believe Tuesday is a deadline for fiscal. Tomorrow is a deadline to get these amendments in print form. We have a recording, we have it on the mic, what they are in spirit. The bill then goes to appropriations. If for some reason the bill does not reflect the agreement that we have come up with today, we will pull it back. At that point, the bill will be a 2-year bill or it will be dead for the year. we don't expect to have to do that because we believe that things are moving and the progress has been made and all advocacy groups are on the same page or getting there. I see a few people shaking their heads. We're going to see if we can get people there. Questions or comments?
I would move the bill with the understanding that the amendments that have been described will be taken at the Appropriations Committee.
Okay. The committee consultant just clarified for the record that we are going to send this out. We're going to make the amendments in appropriations, but we're making them for sure 100% to reflect the conversations we've had. Mr. Wilk.
First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Cooper, for your comments. The devil is in the details. And I would correct the chairman on one point. You said all the stakeholders were in the room. The minority party was not in the room. And I'm going to be laying off this bill today, and I encourage everybody else on my side of the aisle to do the same.
Well, Mr. Wilk, you were welcome in the room. We had about 50 people in that room. And if you were not there, I can't physically restrain you and pull you into the room. Okay? We had an open door there for 5 minutes, and about 50 people walked in, and you did not. So let's be real clear.
In fairness, Mr. Chairman, we were advised to stay in the committee room. But I thank the chairman for trying to reach an agreement with Ms. Weber, who is working very hard on this issue, and look forward to the vote.
Let me say to the committee, I appreciate what has been done. This is a very important bill, not just for me, but for California. And, we know what's happening in Baltimore. We know what's happening in California. We know what's happening around the nation. And there's no question that even in listening to those who've come forward and those who've come against, that we have a divided community. We have law enforcement, and then we have the community. I mean, that's real clear, just in listening to the testimonies and the people who've come forward. Because I want a bill that provides some leadership and transparency as we move forward in this, I wanted to make sure that our body cameras didn't become the next tool that people didn't believe in because it didn't have enough transparency or enough engagement in it. And that's one of the reasons why we looked at the piece about can you view it, can you not view it. It was not a gotcha thing. It was really about trying to restore confidence. We are optimistic, even with the compromises we've made, that there will be confidence restored. This is not a perfect bill. We don't have perfect bills in California. We all know that. We come back, we tweak them, we change them, we alter them. We've gotten we have worked, I want to thank my staff and others and Mr. Bonta's staff and the various agencies. We have worked extensively on this bill since December. It was a huge bill that we honed down to be the bill that it is. We've given parts of other pieces that you'll see to the other authors who have other things dealing with privacy and Public Records Act and those kinds of things that will be coming in other bills. And so we appreciate the chair's effort to include some of those in limited form in this bill so that we know that there's some concern about it. We will work on this bill. The issues that we raised in that meeting that Mr. Gatto raised and others are issues that I seriously take, that we will make sure that we do every effort to really put in the bill exactly what the feelings were of the individuals who were in the room. There were Democrats and Republicans in the room. There were lots of folks in the room. I don't know who was in there. But it was an effort to bring those who had raised issues and concerns about the bill, as well as those who were vested in the bill, to come forward and to basically reach an agreement as to how we move forward with this bill. Like most bills, they'll be amended in appropriations. We'll try to make sure Mr. Gatto will be engaged in, and my staff and others, to make sure it really reflects what was said and also reflects the feelings of those who are behind us. Law enforcement obviously has to take it back to its people to make sure that we're on board. We're conscious of the fact that once this bill gets to the floor, law enforcement will have looked at it again, and they will let you know if they disagree with it. So it's not going to become law simply by getting out of this committee. We still have to work on it. We still have to move it forward. I'm hoping to have the consensus of moving it forward at this time. I think it's significant for California. The optics are important, that as everybody else is having a number of challenges, it would be great to have the state of California come up with policy that we all agree on, that's reasonable, that protects the community, that respects and protects our police officers, and then moves us all forward together. together on this particular issue. So I really thank all of you for spending so much time here. I know Thursday is the worst time in the world to have a meeting. But I thank you for being here. I thank you for the support you've demonstrated, the leadership you've demonstrated. Thank Mr. Gatto for the police officers who've come. Many of them I've known for many years, some of them from my district, who do a remarkable job, like always. But we know that we're in a crisis in this state, and it's not a new crisis, it's an old crisis, but we have access to video now that makes it a major crisis that we see every day on television. I think everyone wants to resolve this issue. We want to find a reasonable way to do it. We want to restore confidence in our police officers in terms of how people handle it. I was telling someone the other day that I was a part of starting the first Battered Women's Services Center in San Diego. And the interesting thing I noticed in the data as I looked at those who came into that center and that shelter, there were no African American women who were in that shelter. And I couldn't believe that there was no battering and abuse in my community, because I know it was. And so we began to go out and we started asking about why don't people come. The director of the center was an African American woman, Ashley Walker Hooper, who's an advocate and a leader in the issue of spousal abuse. And we got consistently the same statement. We don't want to call the police because we think they'll make the situation worse. And that was difficult, because those women felt, if I call the police because my husband is harassing me or doing this, he may end up dead, because of the way they felt about the police department, which I thought was unfortunate, because in that case they didn't have the opportunity to even have the protection that our police officers should provide. And so those are the realities that the communities in which I live, in which I've been raised. And I would hope that we would make every effort to restore confidence. And this is just the first step as we move forward. Our videos on television and everything have given us a view into a world that exists. Now we as legislators must move forward to make sure that we respond to this issue. My son said to me, a young African-American male, as he watched things on TV and as he was tweeting and twitting with everybody about what was going on months ago, he said, "Mom, you're a legislator now. You're supposed to do something about this." And he was absolutely correct. And that's the only reason why I decided to get involved in the body camera bill, the racial profiling bill, and those kinds of issues, because he said, "You're a legislator. We've not had folks like you there before to actually advocate and to really give a different point of view." So I ask you to join us in approving this at this time. I give you my word, my commitment that we will make those changes, that we will keep you informed, and I'm sure my colleagues and my friends behind me, if we don't, they will let you know. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Terrific. Thank you very much. I was just about to ask for your commitment. Thank you for offering it proactively. The desk just called. My initial instinct was correct. We can make the amendments in this committee. We have till Tuesday. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to make sure that these amendments involving the minority party and all the parties in the room, that they are exactly what was reflected and discussed and negotiated. We can come up with a policy, I think, that makes sense, that does justice for the state, for all the people and all the different competing interests. And I think we're very close, and I thank you very much for your terrific work on this. All right, the bill has been moved by Mr. Gordon. I will second it. And again, this is do pass as amended. And Madam, two appropriations. And Madam Secretary, you may call the roll.
Gatto?
Aye.
Gatto, aye. Wilk?
Not voting.
Wilk, not voting. Baker?
Not voting.
Baker, not voting. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Chang? Chang, not voting. Chow?
Aye.
Chow, aye. Cooper?
Not voting.
Cooper, not voting. DeBobne? Aye. DeBobne, aye. Dolly? Dolly not voting. Gordon? Aye. Gordon, aye. Lowe? Lowe not voting.
Okay, well, that bill is on call. So if the sergeants want to lock the doors, that'd be great. And this bill will stay on call.
How many we need?
One.
Who voted? Lowe voted not voting. Who else?
Cooper did not. Baker did not vote. Wilk
Okay.
did not vote.
I mean Democrat.
Democrat was
It's Cooper,
and
Lowe. Yeah, this is so ridiculous. We need, what, one vote?
You okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this meeting is back in session. If the members want to come to the dais, and maybe the author wants to come back. And what we're going to do is this bill passed out of the the Public Safety Committee with several of the members here right now voting for it. Mr. Lowe, I know you voted for it in Public Safety. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to state what has changed since the bill left Public Safety, and maybe we can see if the author is willing to address your concerns. Ms. Weber, you're needed over here. Okay, folks, we have members who need to catch flights. So this committee is back in session. I appreciate everybody working very hard, but and we're working very hard to hammer out a compromise that makes good sense. Okay, Ms. Weber, the floor is yours.
I I believe we're in agreement, and I'm sure my friends in the back will tell me if we're not. The agreement is that we're going to say that officers are permitted to review footage of an incident in which they're involved and so forth and so on, and we will, except for those who have basically grandfathering in those organizations that have different agreements, so that protects Oakland, Richmond, and whatever else ones who have different agreements that currently exist. But it'll be an affirmative statement saying that they're allowed to review the footage.
Okay, and just to reiterate, this is what I just proposed, which is we're essentially grandfathering the few departments, not a blanket renegotiate statewide, and I believe that provides some comfort. I see you nodding. Will you state for the record? That's all right.
Yeah, on the record, Aaron Reed, representing PORAC and the Highway Patrol Association. We appreciate that movement. We obviously have to go back to our boards of directors and report this is a huge and very important bill, but we appreciate the cooperation of the committee and Ms. Weber, so we'd like to see the bill move today with that amendment.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Let's Mr. Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's been a lot of changes on this bill today. What does it do then to the ones who have not adopted, because this is going to be a statewide law? What is their option then? Is it still a local option whether they choose to or not?
Well, that's what I wanted, but they want a statewide statement saying that everyone has the right to review the film prior to it. Right.
So with the amendments, do the locals that do not already have something in place, what does this bill do for them or not for them?
They will, I guess, be allowed to look at the footage before writing their report. Is that correct?
That's our belief. That's our understanding.
Now, the original one that we had originally would have given the people that option. It would not have made it required at the state level. So if you vote the other way as the first part, you would have had the total local option. This way, it moves forward, and the others would be required to basically allow the viewing of the footage, other than the agencies that already exist with a policy. Do you want to change your vote?
I'm trying to figure out exactly what the amendments do or not do, and that's why I asked the question. I'm still unclear. If you do not have anything in place today, like Oakland has something in place where they choose not.
Under the proposal that we just did and folks voted on, if you do not have a policy in place today, then you would have the option. Basically, I'm somewhat being silent on it and saying whatever you choose to do as a policy, to view it or not view it prior to writing a report, is up to you in your local jurisdiction. That's what we asked for, the vote on it first. We didn't get the vote. Some had concerns, and so the other thought is that if we could get at least an additional vote by changing it to saying those who don't have the policy, who are not allowed to view it right now, their policy would be protected. Going forward, any agency that has no policy would have in their policy that members could look at the tape, that law officers could look at the tape, and in other words, they would be able to look at the tape. And that would be it, okay?
Okay, folks, look, we really do have members that need to catch flights. I'm going to let you speak very briefly, and then we're going to call the absent members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Sheehy on behalf of the Cal Chiefs. We think that police chiefs should have discretion. So if the effect of this amendment would be to say that in every jurisdiction other than the two carved out, you have to make them be able to see it, we think that's a problem. We think that there's a reason why chiefs have discretion today. We think they should have discretion tomorrow. And so that is,
and we recognize a tension between.
We've been clear about that point all along.
We recognize a tension between chiefs and labor and rank and file, and we're going to do everything we can to strike the right balance moving forward. Madam Secretary, please call the absent members.
What are we voting on now? Are we voting on the old bill? Are we voting on?
The entire bill is in mock-up. Barely mock-up
but I mean,
form.
I think some members are concerned if you're going back and looking at the votes, are they voting to have the option, or are we voting to do the other piece, which would mean everybody would have to be able to view it, other than the ones who are carved out? Or is there anyone changing their vote? I guess that would be the key.
We're going to call the absent members in 1 minute. The proposal that we understanding that reflects the amendments that will be put in the bill is to grandfather the existing departments who have developed a policy, and that I think reflects the agreement with what was just worked out, And that is what we are voting on right now. And we're going to ask...
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Lowe.
I just wanted to indicate this is the second time hearing this bill. I heard it in public safety and voted in support of moving it forward. I had indicated that I had a number of concerns in public safety, and I just witnessed a number of individuals working diligently on this. I want to thank the chair specifically for trying to work hard in putting this together. Obviously, a lot of effort has gone into this, and I'm prepared with the amendments. And thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the author to vote in support of this here today.
Terrific. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the absent members, or the non-voting members.
Wilk.
Not voting.
Wilk not voting. Baker. Not voting. Baker not voting. Chang. Chang not voting. Cooper. Not voting. Cooper not voting. Dolly. Not voting. Dolly not voting. Lowe.
Aye.
Lowe, aye.
Okay, that bill is out. Our work is not done, but we have hammered out a terrific compromise today, and I want to thank everybody for participating. Thank you. We're going to leave the roll open for add-ons. Thank you. All right. This meeting is adjourned.